Yeah. She's like a couple. Yeah, she was not like, well, she's not really like a something. There is not like sorry. Hi, everyone. We'll be starting, everyone online as well and in person. We'll be starting in just a moment. We're just like ironing out the last minute tech problems that always happen. If I stand here, can you hear me better?
I can hear you.
Okay, thank you. We're getting our PowerPoint ready. My apologies, everyone. Thanks for being patient. Yeah, sure. Thank you. Okay, looks like we're good. Yeah. Hi, everyone. And hi, everyone to the room and online. It seems like the audio is a little funky in the room, and I'm assuming the audio piece is somewhere over here. So I'm just going to stand closer to this. So I apologize if people online get my back, and I also apologize if people in the room get my back as well, but I'll try to divide my time equally. Okay, well, I don't know if we necessarily have critical mass, but we're running 5 minutes. So I'm going to start. People online, this is being recorded. So if you have a preference for your face not being on the recording, then you're welcome to turn off the video. We also just ask that you keep yourself muted while people are presenting, just so we can eliminate background noise. If you're having any technical difficulties online, feel free to message Curtis Brown there from Lincoln County Regional Planning Commission, and Curtis can help you. And with that, I'll just introduce myself. My name is Rachel Hamilton. I'm the NOAA Coastal Management Fellow with Maine Coastal Program and the Maine Bureau of Resource Information and Land Use Planning, which is a long name, so I say it slowly. And we're putting on this series, so this is just the third workshop in a series that's really built off of itself through topics. Next slide. And people online, feel free to introduce yourselves in the chat so you can get to know everyone, and then in person, we'll have an opportunity as well to get to know each other. So just today, we're behind time already on the agenda, but I'll go over foundations, what I did last time, just make sure everyone in the room kind of is on the same page around language that we're using. Joan Walton here from the Municipal Planning Assistance Program will go talk a little bit more about community planning. We're here at Knox County Emergency Management Agency, talk about hazard mitigation planning. The TCO will be talking about mapping hazards. We'll have a short break, and then we'll go into breakout groups for an activity. We normally introduce ourselves, but I don't know, maybe my team can just introduce themselves from where they're sitting. Max. No, it's fine. Just we're free to say.
We can't see any of you. All we can see is the agenda, so I don't know who's introducing themselves. Sorry.
Probably don't even want to bother trying.
Yeah, don't even work. Well, this is us. Okay. Everyone. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Max from the Mid-Coast Council of Governments. I'm mostly going to be off screen telling people to wrap up whenever they're about to hit their 5 minutes.
David.
My name is David Ludwig, Senior Planner with Bureau of Resource Information, Land Use Planning, along with Rachel.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dan DeWord. I'm a regional planner at Mid-Coast Council of Governments, along with Max.
Candace Richards, Director of Emergency Management at Knox County.
Laura Graziano, I'm the Community Resilience Planner with Lincoln County Regional Planning Commission.
Joan Walton, Director of the Municipal Planning Assistance Program at the Bureau of Resource Information and Land Use Planning.
Leticia Van Buren, Geospatial Database Manager for Knox County.
Okay. People online, did you hear everyone in the room that introduced themselves? That audio came through? Great, yes. Thank you. Okay. If you don't mind, Laura, let's go back to the presentation when you have a chance. Good. And the next slide, please. Okay, great. So we're here. People online, I'm pointing to October 24th, Community Planning and Hazard Mitigation Planning. This is our series. The last two have been recorded. You can find them online. I'll send you notes after today that will have a link to those recordings. These are our future workshops that continue to build off of one another. So please join us if you are interested in a topic. Next slide, please. Okay, great. So I'm going to go into, oh yes, people online. I'm going to go into just really briefly foundations, talking about community planning, could be comprehensive planning, climate planning, community wildfire protection planning, and then hazard mitigation planning. Great. Next slide, please. Oh, I didn't warn everyone, but the next slide is going to look like a lot of words, but I thought it was the easiest way to share this information. Okay, I'm not going to stand in the way, but is this maximized? Maybe my slide got cut off. Well, anyways, so for those, just want to set the stage in the room. We're talking about kind of community planning or comprehensive planning in some cases, and hazard mitigation planning. And why are we talking about these two topics at the same time today? That's what I'm talking about. That's the point of it. I got to tell you. So just community planning often, and I say this term community planning pretty generally because we can think comprehensive planning. There are some, which Joan may or may not mention, technicalities to a true comprehensive plan for a community, but oftentimes communities can undergo other types of planning in addition to their comprehensive plan, so a climate plan or a harbor plan, any type of planning that you undergo with your community to set goals, to build a consensus or a vision for the future, and decide actions that you might want to undergo. And these types of plans people typically take on or build plans to set them up for success for future funding opportunities, to make sure they're justifying projects they might want to take on. And especially when we think about community planning, it's very interdisciplinary. So it might be around land use, housing, transportation, goals around your culture, your economy, businesses, the environment. In this case, maybe hazards, and then hazard mitigation plan. And I know I'm in the room with some emergency management people, so I promise I took this from FEMA, but this might be led by emergency management agencies, some public safety in your community. The goal typically are to assess your hazard risks, your vulnerabilities, identify actions to reduce those risks. And the hazard mitigation plan requires approval in order to be eligible for certain federal funding. So it's really important to have an approved and updated hazard mitigation plan. And the reason why we're talking about these two things together today in this natural hazards and land use planning overall workshop series, I've put together a nice picture. So plans are typically blueprints for your community for years to come. And I keep forgetting that people online can't see me, sorry. So a plan is typically used to identify, prioritize, and pursue projects and needs based around said variable subject areas. And we know that land use planning decisions play a major role in either reducing risk from natural hazards or exacerbating any risks from natural hazards. And on that note, decisions made 100 years ago that influenced how your community was developed, at that time, folks may not have necessarily been able to consider or thought about considering the hazards we're facing today. But we now have more accurate science and data and the needs to find that information to help us make informed decisions going forward. In addition, we understand that both of these planning processes, a hazard mitigation plan and some type of community plan, are quite intensive. However, they often share similar components and desirable outcomes, and therefore present opportunities for collaboration. If you're sharing resources and information, we can ease some of the workload in each process by supporting one another's needs. And even though these are different types of planning, also getting to know one another in the fields we all work in present benefits beyond the plans themselves. And so I just thanks. So it's just shared components that present opportunities for collaboration. So both processes require a public engagement process and work and partner with your community organizations to help engage folks around identifying needs and making decisions. And those are, parallel that we engage with the public. Both different types of plans require data. You need to gather data. We're often referring to similar data sets or conducting similar risk assessments to make these decisions or to include in our plans. Similarly, they require a lot of capacity, whether there's funding opportunities that overlap or you can share, sources of funding for the same shared goals, staff time, and so we're not repeating the same work. And then lastly, just establishing strategies and actions. For a lot of communities, hazard-related work, environmental-related work tends to be a pretty, important topic and desired topic. And a hazard mitigation plan, that is really it. And so just wanted to think about highlighting each other's work and, working collaboratively. Next slide, please. Okay, these are the 5 steps of hazard management in a nutshell. It's on the back of a worksheet that everyone online, you received an email with a worksheet. And on the back, it's just a reference sheet. It's the 5 phases of emergency management. We'll talk about it more in the breakout rooms, but just wanted people to think about how, even if you aren't an emergency management director or responder, oftentimes the work that we do all plays a role in these different stages of emergency management. And so just having people think about going forward, what role you might play or what phase that you often contribute to and work around. And actually, there was a question I wanted to ask everyone that I forgot to ask, but who here, well, actually, no, I just told you what they are, so I can't ask you if you know. But maybe a question that I could ask was, who here has worked on a hazard mitigation plan? And if you're online, you can raise your hand too. See, okay, there's some half hands. Who here has worked on like some type of community plan? I know that's pretty general. Great. See, look at that. Okay, 2 different skill sets. Okay. Oh, look, some people raised their hands online too. I didn't get to see it very well though. All right, we'll just move on. Thank you. Next slide, and I think it's Joe's coming up.
Thanks, Rachel. I'm Joan Walton, Director of the Municipal Planning Assistance Program. Pleased to be joining you tonight to talk about opportunities to incorporate hazard mitigation into land use planning. Municipal Planning Assistance Program provides land use planning expertise for Maine citizens, municipalities, regional councils, like Lincoln County Regional Planning Commission, the Mid-Coast Council of Government, and others, state agencies and the legislature, and promotes growth management principles in state and local policies, programs, regulations, and investments. Our office provides technical and financial assistance, coordinates with state agencies, and implements Maine's growth management law. Municipal Planning Assistance Program, which I want to call MPAP, is just a lot easier than constantly getting that out, because eventually I'm going to trip on it. MPAP provides one-on-one technical support, planning data, annual grants to the regional councils, and competitive grants for specific planning projects. MPAP works with agencies across state government to assure that their policies and programs align with and support state land use policies. We accomplish this through participation on interagency working groups, grant review committees, and advisory boards. Comments that we solicit as part of our review of municipal comprehensive plans helps assure that the missions and policies of our partner agencies are appropriately reflected in local plans. Through the growth management laws review and certification process, MPAP guides communities in the development of comprehensive plans and land use ordinances that are tailored to meet the needs of the individual community and are consistent with state land use goals and policies. Land use planning helps to guide future development and prepare for growth through the comprehensive plan and ordinances that implement the comprehensive plan. Land use planning can help prepare communities for the impacts of change. Community can enhance climate resilience through planning, land use management, and development strategies. Comprehensive planning is the community's opportunity to plan for change, address resiliency issues, critical natural resources, and ensure that the community has considered issues such as housing, economic development, historic preservation, and municipal operations. Fundamental purpose underlying land use planning and all government functions is the protection of public health, safety, and welfare. This means providing for the protection of, for the protection and well-being of the general public, and is accomplished by regulating where development occurs, avoiding incompatibility of land uses, establishing building codes and development standards like building setbacks, and enforcement of local ordinances. Slide. A municipal comprehensive plan provides a long-term vision for a community. It analyzes data and establishes policies and strategies that identify where a community wants to grow and what resources need to be protected. Comprehensive plan is the backbone of a community's planning process. Ongoing public involvement is a critical piece to a good comprehensive plan that guides the community's vision for the future. Comprehensive plan provides a legally defensible foundation for land use regulations, as well as a base for municipal capital investment planning. Comprehensive plans encourage orderly development and growth in appropriate areas of the community while protecting the municipality's character, making efficient use of public services, and preventing inappropriate developments. Comprehensive plan is not a regulatory document. It sets the stage for regulations through implementation of a future land use plan. Future land use plan identifies where and how the municipality wants to grow, provides the framework for establishing the land use ordinances in each municipality. Change is inevitable, and we know that it is happening. Future land use plan creates a blueprint for growth and change to occur while achieving the goals of the community. Maine's growth management law identifies topical elements that you see on the screen that should be included in municipal comprehensive plans. Comprehensive plan provides a unique opportunity to incorporate the policies and strategies of local and regional hazard mitigation plans to make a more disaster resistant community. Climate action plans, hazard mitigation plans, and evacuation plans can all help community identify how vulnerabilities, hazards, and risks will be affected by future land use and development trends. Designating areas in the community for future growth away from high hazard areas should be an important component of the future land use plan. As I said earlier, an overarching purpose of land use ordinances is to protect the public health, safety, and welfare. Ordinances protect natural resources such as water quality, wildlife habitat, and important farmland. They ensure development occurs in appropriate places and minimizes fiscal impacts of development on municipal government. Comprehensive plan is of minimal value to a community unless it is adopted and implemented. Implementation includes adopting land use regulations and a capital investment plan. Land use ordinances generally have the same elements, although specific standards often differ from one town to the next because of the broad authority granted to our communities by Maine's Home Rule Authority. Two important land use regulatory tools that protect residents and properties from hazards are the Shoreland Zoning Ordinance and the Floodplain Management Ordinance. Slide. Maine state law mandates that all municipalities adopt, administer, and enforce a local ordinance that regulates land use activities in the shoreland zone. Shoreland zone is defined as all land areas within 250 feet horizontal distance of the normal high water line of any great pond or river, upland edge of a coastal wetland, including all areas affected by tidal action, and upland edge of defined freshwater wetlands, and all land within 75 feet horizontal distance of the normal high water line for certain streams. Purposes of shoreline zoning are to prevent and control water pollution, to protect fish spawning grounds, bird and wildlife habitat, to protect buildings and lands from flooding and accelerated erosion, to protect archaeological and historic resources, to protect commercial fishing and maritime industries, to protect freshwater and coastal wetlands, to control building sites, placement of structures and land uses, to conserve shore cover and visual as well as actual points of access to inland and coastal waters, to conserve natural beauty and open space, and to anticipate and respond to the impacts of development within shoreland areas. Shoreland zoning regulations are administered and enforced by each municipality through a locally adopted ordinance. So the local code enforcement officer is typically the first point of contact in shoreland zoning questions. Regional council planners like Max, Dan, Laura here in the room, and shoreland zoning staff at the Maine Department of Environmental Protection assist municipalities with shoreland zoning related questions and issues, as well as provide technical assistance and training on shoreland zoning rules. Slide. Floodplain management ordinances are also adopted locally. However, unlike shoreland zoning, they are not a requirement of state law. Municipalities can voluntarily join the National Flood Insurance Program. The National Flood Insurance Act of 1968 and the National Flood Insurance Program provide flood insurance protection to property owners in flood-prone areas. The NFIP, National Flood Insurance Program, provides maps, regulations, and insurance. Municipalities are responsible for administering and enforcing the regulations through their floodplain management ordinances. The NFIP is the only source of affordable flood insurance and offers property owners an opportunity to purchase flood insurance. This insurance is available only in participating communities that have made a commitment to practice sound land management. So if a community is not participating in the National Flood Insurance Program, flood insurance is not available to property owners in that community. Mortgage loans and disaster assistance is severely limited in communities that do not participate in the NFIP. Slide. The Maine Floodplain Management Program staff, see them identified on the screen here, provides technical information, floodplain maps, and model ordinances to communities interested in joining the NFIP, as well as to participating communities. They also provide information and assistance to homeowners, businesses, lenders, realtors, and others with questions regarding floodplain maps, insurance issues, and the National Flood Insurance Program. Next slide. The Maine Growth Management Law requires the development of a capital investment plan for financing the replacement and expansion of public facilities and services required to meet projected growth and development. Capital investment plan, sometimes called a capital improvement plan. I'm going to call it a CIP. It's just easier for me. CIP is a working blueprint for building and sustaining a community's publicly funded physical infrastructure. It does not include routine operation and maintenance expenditures for public services. A CIP is a multi-year plan that identifies and summarizes anticipated capital needs within the planning period, which is usually 5 to 10 years, in order to implement the comprehensive plan. The purpose of a CIP is to identify capital projects, identify and forecast funding sources, prioritize improvements based on available funding, and estimate a timeline for completion of individual improvements. CIP links capital expenditures to long-range plans, such as the comprehensive plan or hazard mitigation plan, connects community goals to priorities for public spending. Capital improvements can significantly impact the community's built environment and the natural environment as they guide the trajectory of future growth or change. With the increasing frequency and magnitude of natural hazards, CIP provides an important tool that local governments should use to mitigate risk and promote community resilience. CIPs can help facilitate the inclusion of hazard mitigation principles into project identification, prioritization, and to leverage mitigation or recovery funds. CIPs can also help communities to understand how growth has the potential to increase risk and anticipate and avoid potentially negative outcomes. Capital improvement programs Systematically evaluate the availability and use of capital resources according to a prioritization schedule. Identify infrastructure improvements that could be funded with available resources. Identify infrastructure improvements that could be funded with available resources, and inform the public about the timetable for the construction or completion of projects. They often include both a comprehensive list of infrastructure needs and a fiscally constrained list that is limited by whatever funding might be available to the municipality. They need to be revised on a regular basis, ideally annually, to ensure that they continually reflect the needs and resources of the community and to incorporate unexpected events or opportunities. The incorporation of hazard mitigation goals and priorities into capital investment plans is an emerging best practice for achieving community resilience. Capital plans should be tied to goals contained in the community's comprehensive plan. CIP should be based on the town's comprehensive plan and be developed through a formalized process of public input and participation. It is one of the most significant tools for translating the comprehensive plan into reality. Local planners haven't typically participated in hazard mitigation planning if it is done at the county level. Municipal representation typically includes emergency first responders or public works staff because they live in this world. They respond when a road washes out or when lives are threatened. This isn't a realm that professional planners or volunteer planning board members often venture into. This is an emerging practice, and we're starting to see greater awareness of the need to integrate land use planning and hazard mitigation planning, but we don't have a good framework for it yet. Planners develop a number of other plans besides comprehensive plans. Rachel touched on this in her opening comments. All of these plans, whether they're downtown plans, housing plans, regional transportation plans, plans for new sewage treatment, or others, present opportunities to address hazard mitigation, often in a manner that would support and serve multiple objectives. You need to increase awareness of these separate but related planning processes and join forces for parallel outcomes. But how do we do this? I think we do this through education, by establishing new relationships like we're doing tonight, by bringing interested parties into the process to serve as a catalyst for broader coordination. We need to open channels for dialogue, take advantage of expertise, break down silos, and maximize synergies to achieve results. Learning about planning efforts going on in our communities and at the regional level. Who else is planning for the future of our communities? What do each of these plans aim to accomplish? Identify the commonalities in the goals, strategies, and outcomes of these other plans. Consider how the hazard mitigation plans relate to other aspects of policymaking and how various agencies and stakeholders can be involved in helping to achieve this integration. Find ways to integrate consideration of hazards into routine planning discussions. Finally, consider how the various parts of community planning fit together in new ways to achieve goals valued by the entire community. For anyone who's interested in learning more about planning in Maine, you can attend the virtual monthly Maine Planning Basics webinar series. Schedule up on the screen, login information. It's a program that we started a year ago that introduces a variety of planning topics. Each session is recorded and is available on the Municipal Planning Assistance Program website. For those of you that have been participating, I just want to call your attention to the fact that we're transitioning away from Zoom to a Microsoft Teams platform. So the meeting ID and passcode here on the screen is brand new.
Also, I attend those, and the last one was from the DOT, and it was really great. I think I personally learned a lot, and it's really good. So there's some great information. So I'm just rubbing in.
Check out our website. There's more great ones coming up. Thank you, Rachel. Finally, the last slide is my contact information. It's repetitive of what was on the first slide, but it's up there if anybody needs to contact me after tonight. Thank you.
Thanks, Joan.
So there was a lot of information I could have shared, but I tried to condense things. So if anyone's confused or has questions about it, feel free to reach out to me afterwards.
Can you reintroduce yourself?
People want to know.
Yeah. Can everyone online hear Candace?
My voice does not carry well. I try.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay.
Everyone
Okay.
wants them.
I'm the Candace. Okay. I'm Candace Richards. I'm the Director of Emergency Management at Knox County. So this meeting is taking place in our meeting and training space. So. All right, so I have some of this information that's in here. I'm using Knox County as the example, obviously, since we're physically in Knox County. And I know there are people in other counties that are in here, but just to kind of give you some idea of what goes into hazard mitigation plans, I've got information on Knox County in it. So in Knox County, we have 18 municipalities and some unorganized territory. And the stakeholders also include all your community organizations, other non-governmental groups, nonprofits, all of that stuff. These are our municipalities. So I just threw this in here, obviously kind of talked about mitigation a little bit already, but mitigation is really about doing what you can to soften the effect of something. We're not going to be able to stop a hurricane from coming, but if we're paying attention to things and doing maintenance of roads and properties and the things we know that are going to get damaged when that hurricane comes through, then we can prevent it from being as bad. It's like wearing a winter coat when it's cold out. It doesn't stop you from getting cold or it being cold out there, but you're more comfortable when you're outside. So this is just some information if you're bored at some point and need some help falling asleep. The Stafford Act is where all of the legal authorities are for this stuff. When the plan is approved and it's approved by FEMA, it's effective for 5 years. So the one we've been operating on is from 2019 and it expired in August. Once we get this year's in place, it will be good for 5 years. It focuses on Knox County, so it takes into account all of the different hazards that we deal with in our different community areas. And our towns will be able to use that plan for when they go to apply for mitigation grants. And having those processes already going can help when there are disaster declarations and people, the towns are trying to get funding for that too. So these are what's in the plan. The underlined ones are new to this new process. The feds every so often will change what needs to be in it. The crossed out one was something that was in it before that we no longer need. The mitigation strategy is where you're going to find all of the projects that the municipalities have said these are some issues that we've pre-identified in our town that we're going to need to work on. I don't know if anyone has any idea what defensible space is, so I didn't know if I should explain what that is.
Actually, we talked about it last session, so if you don't know what it is, you should watch last session's
Ooh, there you go.
Last workshop presentation.
All right, that'll save 5 minutes.
That's a great scenario.
Yeah. We just said defensible space.
Oh, cool.
So go back and watch that if you missed it. Okay, so it has participation and outreach. And those two, they were there before, but the feds are really pushing equity and making sure that everybody has a chance to speak up and to participate if they want to. So as part of this plan process, we're not just submitting a draft of our plan, we also have to prove that we spent time talking to the community, that we took different routes to engage, both like in-person stuff as well as town meetings or social media, all the different ways you can get information from people in the community. They want us to be able to prove that. So for some of the towns, it's a little bit more difficult because maybe it's, usually one person that works on the projects. So we were heavily encouraging them to work with the people in the town, as well as the different departments talking to each other because of that whole planning between different planners. See, I can tie things together too. So when we're looking at updating the plan, obviously we're using the previous plan as our baseline, our template, but we're also thinking about all the things that might have evolved in the last 5 years. And the feds haven't really put that much stock in climate change, but it is a problem. And unless you're not paying attention, that is happening. So it is more recognized, and we're able to get a little bit more detailed in some of those things in this plan. So we ask people, have you noticed, if you live on the water, have you noticed things changing in the ocean over time? Rivers overflowing that never used to, things like that. We look at both public and private property. Obviously, most of the time, and we're a government organization, and the plan is for the municipalities, they're more concerned about public property, like the roads, the bridges, the harbor, all of that kind of stuff. But it's all connected. It's not like it stops right at the property line. So properties can affect each other. So if you've got construction happening on one property, it can affect how another property manages rainwater, things like that. So you have to look at the bigger picture. And one of the things we really drive home with the towns and with anyone else that we end up talking to about it is having a trail of documentation, and that can include videos and photos. If you look at like Village, well, it's not called Village Soup anymore, Handmade Pilot and it goes Villager or some of the other local newspapers, when we have a big storm and there's a lot of damage, you see the pictures that they'll post, and a lot of the local fire departments, police departments will post them too. If we can capture those images, even if it's on private property, as opposed to a road where it's more dramatic maybe, that can really make a difference in the long run of we're showing over time how things have gotten worse, or there's a cause and effect of, sorry, I talk with my hands a lot. I hope I'm not distracting anyone. You can have something getting worse over here, and then it gets to a breaking point and it affects property over here. So there's a cause and effect thing there. So the feds want you to be able to prove that it's not just a new problem, that it's related to other things, and that you can show. Pictures are huge now for that reason, but videos are awesome too, because you can actually see water taking things over, that kind of thing. So this is the basic timeline. I originally had dates in it, but we're still in the middle of our process. We started out with, we basically started a year late with ours because the feds keep running out of money. So the grant that, the hazard mitigation grant that we had applied for that pays for the consultant, this is what he does. He updates based on new requirements. That's his expertise. So we had to wait until we had that funding available. So we're kind of behind schedule. So our plan expired in August. So that's a little bit of a problem for towns looking for grants, but we're just trying to speed things up a little bit. So we had kickoff meetings at the beginning. Some counties might do one kickoff meeting where they invite the towns as well as the general public. I split them up because I figured it would be easier to, general education for the public, but then with the municipal emergency management directors, because each town has one, and not everybody knew that, to get them situated of what I needed them to be able to do. So once there's a draft that's all put together, then that goes to FEMA. They'll probably ask for more information, because they always do. And then once they finally approve it, then each municipality has to formally adopt that plan for their own and have signatures in the back of the thing. So that enables them to apply for certain grant funding.
Sure. At what point in that, at what point in that at what point does someone say, over here, could look at the draft, provide feedback? What step in that? Because it usually goes to the emergency director.
Yes. Well, I mean, it depends. Every town handles it a little bit differently. And obviously in some of these towns where they don't have a lot of staff, it might be the fire chief who is doing a million other things. And so sometimes it's more of a group effort, sometimes it's just one person. So we had surveys that were put out for the community, but each town also had to do their own municipal survey, which is different. And people were invited to also speak to the town. And that can kind of go on the entire time. We actually put out the public survey before we started our formal process, just because the survey was ready. We were just waiting for the funding, so we threw it out a little bit early. Okay. Great.
I see Gail dropped in the chat. About GMRI's community science coastal flooding project to crowdsource photos and data about high tide and storm flood events along the coast. Thank you, Gail, for sending that. We'll share that link with the people in the room as well.
So I broke it down by what the municipalities need to do and what we need. So this is what we need from the municipalities. They do their municipal survey, which is kind of similar to what the public is asked to do, but they're supposed to get specific about where their concerns and issues are. And then what they're supposed to do is take the list of projects that was in the prior plan and update them so that we know if any of them were done during that 5-year period. They get removed. Do they have any new projects? Do they want to relabel them, update them, or whatever? This is one of the reasons why we want the public to speak up if they are aware of issues, because the person doing the municipal survey or the group of people doing it may not know that there are issues. They don't know that your road floods every year because it's not impacting where the fire truck can go or something, if it's like a private road or whatever. So that's why it's important to speak up when you know things. And they were also required to keep attendance rosters from any planning meetings or when they met with the public, when they had discussions on the topic at all, because we need to be able to show the feds that they were involving other people. So this is just an example of one page out of the 2019 plan that shows the projects that Appleton had, and then the first section of ones that Camden had, just to give you an idea of what's actually in there. They changed some of the requirements for wording. Apparently they didn't like just saying pending, so we have to go back and update some of the ones that aren't in there. That's what I was going to say, sorry. So Letitia's going to get into this obviously in a little bit, but what she does is she takes the information on that previous slide and then puts it into map form. So what I tried to do here is I was thinking about the kinds of questions I often get asked. So I did kind of a question and answer here. So you put projects, or the towns put projects in there. Does that mean they're automatically going to get federal funding for them? No. Fortunately not. If you put projects in there and then later on the costs go up like they always do, I mean, it's a 5-year plan. So by the time the town gets around to actually working on something, is that cost estimate in there still valid? They don't lock you in at that amount. They just want your best guess of what you think it is. When you actually get to or the municipality gets to the point of doing the project, you're going to fine tune that information anyway. So if it costs more than the amount in there, it's not gonna really matter. And it doesn't require that you fit them in any specific time frame. Like if they put projects in there, you don't have to have them all completed by the time that plan expires. That's not going to get there. You want to kind of think of it as a catch-all of issues. And a lot of them will just say that they're pending funding. If there's funding available, the town will do it. If not, it might just have to sit on there for a few more plans, periods, until it can be addressed. But it gives you the municipalities a place to put all these things and say, okay, we've considered these projects. We know it needs to happen at some point. We're just waiting until we can find the funding for it. So the question usually comes up, how many projects do the towns need? They really got to have at least one to really be included in the plan. Some of the towns, like the city of Rockland, has a lot. Whereas you saw on that previous slide, Appleton had 2, I think it was. Warren actually finished off the ones they had from the 2019 plan. So we put, for this new plan, we put in something generic about we'll upgrade culverts as necessary or something like that. So there's something in there because the feds want to see that you're at least thinking about it.
We are doing that.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and some of these smaller towns, maybe the road that has the most work that's needed for it is a state road. So it's not their problem to deal with anyway. So for some of these smaller towns, it's actually hard for them to come up with projects. Okay, so this is one of the problems we have with the plan expiring. So when a town is applying for a BRIC grant, for instance, when FEMA goes to actually consider the application, if there isn't an approved, established hazard mitigation plan on file at the federal level, they don't even consider the application. It just gets tossed. So the fact that our plan expired in August is a bit of a problem for any municipality that is hoping to apply for those grants. I know Thomaston was able to get in an application early enough that I think it was still in effect when it got refused. So we're hoping that we're there.
But so we also wouldn't be able right now to apply for a hazard mitigation assistance grant. Is that right?
Now, once we get to the point where there's actually a draft and it's reviewed and sent to FEMA, it can take up to 3 months. So, and we're not even to the point of being able to submit it to FEMA. So we're getting into a guilt tripping stage to try to get some of this stuff done. And you can have some towns that are holding up the works for others. Some towns were really good and got their stuff in really quickly. And then some of the others, I think people just got busy in summer. We had mass gathering events, and this kind of took a back seat. So now it's just kind of driving hard to get that done. So like I said, state roads, not our problem. The problem is, though, who do you complain to? So like, I was going to put some pictures in here, but it didn't work out. But if anyone saw the section of like 235 in Warren after the May 1st storm of last year, it was gone. And they only, the whole kit caboodle was gone. The culverts were downstream and the road was just, it was this huge chasm. So that affects things because it isn't just an inconvenience. Ambulances, fire trucks, all these first responder agencies had to figure out how to get around it. If that road had been there, it would have taken maybe 2 minutes or something. So it causes some big problems. We can't make the state fix them any faster than they feel like it, fortunately. So I can complain for you. That's about all I can do. But the towns, I know they hear most of the grief, but they can't help it. It's not their issue. So from the public, these are the kinds of things that we really want to hear from them. They can send stuff to the counties, they can send stuff to the towns when they have it. We will often go on, keep trying to call it Village Soup, local media when they post videos and pictures or Facebook. We try to do that and hold it so that we can kind of have a repository of that documentation. You'll have towns where people will retire or pass away and they have all that institutional knowledge in their brain, but it never got put on paper or never got preserved. We're also going to the towns and offering to scan hard photos and stuff like that, old school stuff. This would be a whole other presentation by itself, but I just stuck it in here because public assistance and mitigation are siblings in a sense, so that when there's a storm, public assistance is municipal properties, the roads, the harbor, all of that stuff. Mitigation is, gosh, I'm trying to talk fast because I'm running out of time, sorry. How do I get cut off? No.
Brief discussion too. So.
Okay. All right. So, well, I mean, that's pretty self-explanatory. I suppose somebody can ask a question if they have one. This is how we advertise our survey, which is still active. So if anyone feels so inclined, we're not done with the draft anywho. So if anyone knows of issues in Knox County, here's the QR code as well as the email address to send a hard copy to if you need to do that.
Knox County, I don't know what to say.
Yeah. I put one photo in there just because I think this one's kind of funny because you're like, park where? There is a road there, you just can't see it. So we've had a lot of severe rain and windstorms over the last 2 to 3 years. There's been a huge uptick in disaster declarations here, which is not awesome, but
Thank you.
Hello, it's good to see everyone. I'm Leticia Van Buren, Geospatial Database Manager for Knox County. My slides are built from the 10,000-foot view, and they're intended to be straightforward and easy to understand. Please feel free along the way or after to ask for more details. Next slide, please. Very quickly, what is GIS? It's an acronym that stands for Geospatial or Geographic Information Systems, which use technology to create, collect, analyze, map data, and it comes in multiple forms, ranging from data is key when mapping risk. Some potential data to consider are your hazard extents. That can be from historical to predicted, and various inventories, your road and utility, environmental, historic, and preservation, and not just where things are, but what they are and who is responsible. Next slide, please. Where can you find this information? Photos, surveys, current, previous plans, imagery, documentation for disaster declarations, previous and ongoing risk assessments, just to name a few. Next slide, please. I'd like to take you through my process of going from survey to map, and specifically using a local data source, which was previously mentioned, municipal hazard mitigation survey. And the purpose is to communicate both the risk and efforts to address it, which are the municipal mitigation projects. Slide, please. We begin with developing the survey. And for ours, we wanted to standardize input where possible while also leaving room for feedback. And we have excerpts from our digital survey up on the screen where a municipality can identify who they are, what hazards impact them, and where those hazards are, and describe the impacts.
We also have additional sections to address vulnerable populations and governance. Next slide, please. When the survey is ready to go, it goes to the local emergency manager and we wait for responses. Once the responses start to come in, I take them and bring them into my GIS. So I build a GIS layer and then I map and locate the at-risk areas. I'm also processing the municipal mitigation projects. They come through a different channel, but the process is the same. Build a layer, map the locations. Now it's time to build the map where we bring all the GIS data together. We're including more information, and that for reference, that includes roads, elevation data sets, jurisdictional boundaries, watersheds, and of course, the mitigation information, which are the survey responses and the mitigation projects. When building a map, we have more than just the data itself. We have elements to help communicate where you, what you're looking at, where you are, what the data is, so legend, insets, north arrow. Next slide, please. When I have a draft map ready to go, it's sent to the town, starting with the local emergency manager for their review. I incorporate any comments, changes, adjustments that they may have. Once finalized, the map goes into the plan and it continues through the process. On the GIS side, we have an additional consideration of maintenance. That includes thinking of how the data and the map file will be stored, how and who will access it, how will it be updated in the future, and how might it be distributed in the future. Next slide, please. We've built the map, the plan has gone through. What comes next? What we've built in this process is now a data source available for the future. It can serve as documentation for grants, budgeting. It's a resource that can be incorporated into other planning processes or analyses, and it's a way to connect hazard mitigation and comprehensive. Slide. And the final mapping thought I'd like to leave you with is the challenge of symbology, how things look on the map. How can you communicate clearly when you have multiple layers stacked one on top of the other? And the hint I'll give is look to the maps of the past. Is there anything you'd like me to speak to in more detail?
Can you talk a little bit about the survey response process? Like, was it well? Were a lot of people filling it out, or was it easy for everybody to understand how to go about that?
So this is specifically the hazard
mitigation.
Yes, the municipal mitigation survey. So we're still receiving responses. Within the system that I use, I would check for responses on a regular basis, and we would have responses coming in ebbs and flows. I did receive some calls, emails asking for guidance and just talked it through, but I've been able to take the information that we've received so far and put it into the system. So we tried to make it very much a dialogue, and we're available to provide support as needed.
That doesn't go out to the public.
This particular survey, no. So we were discussing a very specific source in there, yes, but no, that was to the local managers. And so they have, so within that survey, then there is a way for them to document individual locations that they describe or is your side of things mostly subject sort of maps? Is there also gathering other and how does that all sort of flow together or not, you know? So outside of, so we'll address the survey question first. So yes, within the survey, we provided the option for the directors to identify specific roads. That was the standardized input I mentioned earlier. And then, but they also had the option to have a free-form response where they can further describe at-risk areas, the impacts themselves. Photos will come in separately from that, but we are taking additional information to build up that map. The map you saw there was very specific to the survey and the mitigation projects, but there's absolutely room to include pull information from existing data sources, from conversations that are happening within the town, to incorporate other assessments that have happened in the past. Also identifying gaps in information. That's also an important thing. Not just what do we have and are currently collecting, but what's missing and what can we capture in the future.
I have a question.
Yes.
For someone who's not familiar with GIS and mapping, can you explain, and you're right there, you're saying challenge of symbology. What is symbology?
Symbology is how things look. So if we take, so for the hazards, for the example, I chose floods and landslides. So the symbology is like, what color? Would it be a solid color? Is it a transparent? What color would it be? Are you going to have hatching, which is lines? Well, and that's only with 2 hazards. There are some towns have multiple hazards, and often one road will be impacted by multiples. So that, again, that's when you have that stacking. What would be most clear? And for me, I want to have a standard symbology for all of the hazards and potential combinations across the map. So no matter what town you're looking at, it's the same.
We have any questions online?
Well, I think we could open up to general questions if people have questions as well for Candace, Joan, me, in case I wasn't clear in my brief introduction. General questions and discussion. And then, so we'll ask questions to our presenters. Plan is for everyone online as well. Earl, you can ask questions to our presenters right now about the presentations if you'd like. We'll take a quick break, bio break, and then return and have a guided activity. So if you have questions for our presenters now's the time. I know I have some, but I'm saving room for people who aren't me. It's not sure.
Signature again.
I have a question if it's okay, but I don't want to. So Candace, I was just wondering, so just a little bit newer to kind of like the hazard mitigation side of funding. So when different projects are identified and a cost is estimated, you said that, of course that doesn't guarantee federal funding. Are there any priorities though that the feds tend to set within hazard mitigation planning? So like it's more likely for X type of project to be funded typically over another, or how is that ever a part of it, or no? Is it sort of really
It's going to depend on what the funding is coming, where it's coming from, what the grant is, because they change grants all the time of the rules of what you can apply for and who's eligible and how much money is available and all of that. So it really comes down to find out that this exists and hey, that would apply to one of our projects. Or vice versa, however you end up approaching that. But it's really just kind of paying attention and seeing what comes up. There's also the congressionally directed spending and that sort of thing. So timing is everything, honestly, watching for those deadlines and making sure that you're an eligible entity. Some of the towns have a little bit more things to think about, like Mitigation is a plantation and not a town. So if they want to apply for some federal aid, I would have to do it for them. It's like that. So it's a little bit more complicated than
Yeah. So just sort of paying attention to the various grant landscapes, like notifying, you're hearing from different federal sources or subscribing to different newsletters to be notified. This grant is opening, and this could be that's what you generally advise.
I kind of refer to it as translating. We'll hear in our office about various federal programs, and usually the towns have heard something about it, but let's face it, they're wearing a million hats, and so sometimes they don't have time to look into it. So sometimes I can either arrange meetings with the state folks running the programs for the vets and kind of help them figure that out. Sometimes you get into the documentation because they're always like, super thick, and you realize, okay, that's not going to work for this project. So then you just something else. But we help them out as much as we can.
Coordinating things.
No, we haven't had any questions.
Just general thanks to the presenters.
Yes. Okay. Great. Well, you had some time to think questions. I'm gonna take it. It's late. This is a lot of information, and planning is dense. So why don't we take a break? If you're online and you'd like to return later, it's
6:38.
It's 6:38 now. Thank you. So why don't we return at 6:42? You have 4 minutes. Sorry, no. I did my math wrong. Turn at 6:43. You have 5 minutes. Online, in person. Restrooms are down the hallway there. There's snacks over there, waters, and we'll reconvene. Thank you. Very long. Very well. Yes, thank you.